get a look right now as we jump into our draft for Wolves versus Rising Lotus. Right off the bat, Lyra is going to be the ban again, expecting Maleen to be the B-side ban, but we'll see if Rising Lotus are going to do that or if they let Wolves have a go at it.
Absolutely. I expect Maleen, yeah, coming off the table. EU says, no, we're not messing around with it. She's too strong right now. In a best-of-1 series, there's not a lot of opportunity to explore some of these different options. You only get one chance to get the W, and if you give up Maleen and you lose, that's definitely... I'm sure a lot of these teams would want to have that back if that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kroll will be the first pick for Wolves. One of these heroes that we've seen banned an awful lot throughout the early weeks of the preseason. Rising Lotus, they're going to grab the Samuel. Do they actually go for a Celeste now as well? This has been one of the more popular picks, but we just saw last week they didn't run the Celeste, and they are actually going to go for the Churnwalker instead. So Celeste now an option for Wolves.
Definitely an interesting pickup so early on into the draft. Obviously, there's a ton of synergy out of Churnwalker and Samuel. You chain up a bunch of enemies, Samuel drops his Drifting Dark, the Malice and Verdicts just go in, and the splash damage on top of the chain damage. Very hard for a lot of these teams to have to deal with. Wolves wanting to pick up Scarf and hopefully play a little bit of the range game, stay out of range of those chains.
I'm just surprised that Samuel and Scarf, both generally mid laners, are we going to just not have a Celeste picked here? I mean, I would expect if it's still available after this next rotation, one of these teams would likely grab it and just flex either Scarf or Samuel, depending on which one gets it, into likely the top lane is where I would expect it, but you never know. I mean, we could very well see a no Celeste draft, which I would be shocked if that goes through.
Reza, Tony coming off the board. Looks like Celeste might be going through. I mean, if these teams want to stack the mages, if they want to play the range game, they definitely can. Reza is off the table, so if you do want to go for that double mage composition, much safer. Exactly what Rising Lotus is going to go for. Tony off the board as well. So Wolves not going to be having those tier 1 captains. They're going to be having to look for something else. I mean, Rising Lotus obviously going with the Churnwalker. Definitely something that's going to synergize super well with Samuel and Celeste, but it's on Wolves now to figure out what they want to do.
I mean, you say that Wolves aren't going to have one of those tier 1 captains. They banned away the 2 most frequent captain picks, so it's kind of, they've done it to themselves. I feel like they're probably just going to be comfortable with the Arden pick anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. I do want to see them grab a Vox. We'll actually touch on that a little bit more after this draft, but I would really like to see Wolves go ahead and grab themselves a Vox either now or with their final pick, just because it's something that they are comfortable and they are going to grab that.
There you go. Definitely a great pick here on the Sovereign's Rise currently. We haven't seen any Crystal Power Vox just yet. Weapon Power has been the dominating form and has looked very strong in the right situation as long as these players know exactly when to go in and when to execute.
Rona is going to be the answer for the side of Rising Lotus. A little bit interesting that they picked the Rona into a Krull and a Vox. I feel like both of those 2 heroes can usually do pretty well against a Rona, but you know, obviously Rona is still very strong. If you get yourself an early lead, there's not much you can do against her no matter who you're playing.
Absolutely. I don't really care for the Rona pick. She's still a great frontline, jumping in and then just dropping the red mist on top of them. It does do a lot of damage, but yeah, Vox super good at kiting out the Rona. Kroll, those weakness stacks, once they puts those on top of her, her damage output goes way down. Wolves gonna be banning out the Gwen. Rising Lotus still needing probably what's gonna be their top lane pick, I would assume. I kind of expect either Samuel or Celeste to go out of the jungle, but I've also seen a lot of Samuel up in the top lane.
Yeah, I would also, you know, Rona could also go up into the top lane as well, so they could very well look for a jungler or a bottom lane hero. I would expect, you know, maybe something like the Ringo or, you know, the Gwen. I think being banned is very smart by Wolves because that could have very well been the final pick for the side of Rising Lotus. So I like the decision being made there in the draft for Wolves. Now they get to round out their composition. You expect a crystal carry of some kind, you know, maybe someone who's really aggressive. They don't have a ton of early game pressure. So, you know, I would want to say Akashka, but with Kroll already there, I don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe an Idris could come through for that CP pressure that you can apply, but that's, again, a little bit later in the game.
Yeah, with these 3.2 damage updates, the early game is so important. Alpha does do decently well in the early game. Unfortunately, she is suffering some huge nerfs in update 3.2. But yeah, if you go behind in the early game, Black Claw is spawning 2 minutes sooner. Ghost Wing is having you do so much more damage to structures. We saw Clash in the last game just charge straight through that bottom lane. Just if you get an armory at 8-9 minutes into the game, that is so hard for any team to try and deal with. So that's definitely going to be something that Wolves has to keep an eye on.
Yeah, those defensive rotations. I'm going to be talking about this a whole lot as we go through the rest of the preseason, especially with this now, the earlier timings of these pushes. But the defensive rotations you make to counteract those 5-man pushes are critical. I need to see teams start stepping up their game when it comes to the defensive efforts, because they have not been doing it. That's one of the reasons Clash is so successful, is that when they group up like that, the other teams just are not responding very well.
Definitely agree with you. Staying on the same page is going to be super important. For the side of Rising Lotus, we are taking a look at Tentacion. He has played really well here in the first 2 weeks. Definitely looking to make sure he continues that here today, and he's definitely been a core component to this Rising Lotus roster.
Yeah, he's definitely been a player that's stepped up a lot for them over these first couple of weeks. Over on the other side, kind of on the opposite page, as we're going to actually get a look at Tentacion here. It's like you said, he's been stepping up. He's been performing pretty well. It's been very aggressive in their games that they've done well. So I feel like a lot of it is they kind of come and go as he performs.
Definitely a tough matchup for any Taka there going against an Alpha. He is making sure that he is diving into these back lines, taking out the squishy carries, executing exactly how he needs to. Not going to be on Taka here today. Definitely his most played hero, Samuel, Blackfeather, Kestrel, so we might indeed see Samuel up in that top lane.
Yeah, very well could. Or it could be the Blackfeather. They did, and the Rona. It could be any of those. They have a lot of flexibility with their draft. Over on the other side of the Rise, though, going to be keeping my eyes on Kigaza. This is a player that, we talked about the Vox pick in the draft. This has been by far his best hero that he has played. You go back to any of these other games, he was 3-14-3 combined KDA on every other hero, with Vox 3-2-7. So Kigaza, I want to see him step up in general, but Vox has been by far his best pick of the preseason though thus far. So I really like the fact that they grabbed that pick for him. Assuming it goes to him, I really hope it does end up on him. But we'll get to see who's going to be playing what in just a moment as we head on to Sovereign's Rise with Humanist and Dowsy.
Well, that's right. Thank you very much. And our second matchup of the day, Wolves versus Rising Lotus. I'm Humanist here with Dowsy, and that's our first blood within the first minute. Could actually go the other way, but Dowsy, these teams starting off hot.
Yeah, this is Wolves' chance to potentially come back into the VPL Preseason Invitational. They've had a really rough start to the season, 0-4 so far. Rising Lotus managed to get their first win last week on Sunday, and right now they're going to try and put the pressure on as they roam into the jungle to steal the Crystal Treant.
And on the other side, there's actually a battle over that Crystal Treant going the way of Rising Lotus. So interesting kind of invades on both sides. Slightly different balance, though.
Yeah, no, right now, Rising Lotus putting a little bit more effort into trying to steal it away from under the noses. You can see Wolves just not actually wanting to fight over it. They're just reacting to the invade coming in. But Nomad here in a bit of trouble.
Nomad, that's what you get for being a clown. Clowning around back there. Second kill will go the way of the Wolves, and they got to be happy about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was a really nice start for Wolves here. Getting that early lead is great for them. Paprika kind of caught between a rock and a hard place as he roams around the jungle. He'll go down.
Paprika playing a little too spicy, and that's going to go the way of the Blackfeather. That's Keanu's first kill of the game. I thought it was second, but that's retarded.
Don't worry about it, Humanist. It's fine. So 2-1 so far. 2 minutes into this game, and some invades coming out. A couple of invades coming out from both these teams. Wolves fairly half-decent early game against all opponents. Humanist, they kind of have a set play that they like to make, and they're decent at kind of keeping up in the gold with whatever their opponents put out. It's when this game kind of scales on and goes further is when Wolves start to lose their place a little bit. So I'm really interested to see what kind of work they're putting in to try and make sure they keep up with the action, keep the gold coming to them rather their opponents. Rising Lotus is a great team to really try and find their footing against here in EU. So if they're going to have a chance, they have to do it now.
Oh, Nomad! Getting taken. I mean, what are you actually doing there, bud? Astrold able to take down the Chrysaor. Chrysaor healing flash stays on Cracks. He's gonna get himself a kill as well. Wolves tearing their opponents apart here. This is tough stuff.
Yeah, no, this is very tough stuff. Rising Lotus are definitely losing on the lane front so far. Both the mid lane and the bot lane is not going well for them. And we'll have to see how they really react to this. Wolves are really pressuring as hard as they can. Rising Lotus essentially going into the top side jungle, stealing away the gold there, but Wolves basically just responds by doing the exact same thing, making sure that they're not losing out any gold on any front. But this is where, as we start to reach that 4-minute mark, that I really want to see this macro game that Wolves need to improve on, because those turrets start to lose their defenses, that early game buff that they get. And if Wolves are able to group up and start taking those early and make sure Rising Lotus can't respond in any way, then they're still going to start growing gold, which should just help them get that Ghost Wing quicker. And once they get that Ghost Wing, that's when they can really start scaling.
Start scaling, just snowballing all over you. I mean, the Rising Lotus here, you're going to feel like they're getting snowballed on if that's the case. Viewers are going to feel like they're getting snowballed on right now. Bit of a fight over this Crystal Treant. Stun's gonna come on through, and I think Crack's able to grab that. That was a nice play. The pull back, though, Nomad Vagabond setting it up, so Crack's gonna knock him down. So let's do it over the wall onto Chrysaor. He's able to get that one, and it looks like they're actually gonna get 3 kills off the back of this one. Rising Lotus now tied up 4-4.
Great claps coming out of Rising Lotus there, just really recognizing that Wolves had been playing a little bit carelessly in their rotations, and because of the fact that Churnwalker amplifies that damage and really turns AoE heroes into even more of a threat, able to really make some plays. Nomad Vagabond really loves that Churnwalker or Clownwalker, whatever you want to call it today, Humanist. And so to be able to pick it up here in this game and just provide so much threat across the board, it's really going to be great for Rising Lotus. We do see that Nomad is actually disconnected right now, but Asteroid, being a good sport, it's not going to attack him whatsoever. Unfortunately, the minions will, and so I guess Asteroid's going to just clear this one a little bit up quicker. You don't want a player blocking up a minion wave, and so that will be Nomad sent back to the Sanctuary.
Doing positive intent. You know, that's what I'm talking about right here. Rising Lotus, they're gonna go ahead and get in the jungle in the meantime, take a little bit away there. So constant aggression back and forth. And speaking of aggression, Kigaza down here, he's gonna get boosted by the Vanguard, but rooted in place. Temptation trying to kite back, able to get both camps there. That's a nice steal for him. Or take, not really a steal, it was right in their face. Healing Flask, he'll kite back under the turret. Let's see if they want to dive here. They're pretty low at this point. Malice and Vertex clipping on through. And Floorshoe's just going to go ahead and back on out. Really doesn't want to play games just there, but they are walking into range of Nomad Vagabond. Hook and Chains will connect onto one. Vanguard coming on forward. Rona getting a kill somewhere on the map in the meantime. Nomad Vagabond's going to get chased down. They're going to let him go. He pulls him back. A lot of threat coming on through here. Nomad Vagabond with a block at the end, able to stay alive, playing with fire.
Yeah, but speaking of fire, that's going to be Temptation taking a kill onto Kigaza there. That Vox falling to the Samuel, who got himself that weapon power buff off of the Vox, and that's just going to make his auto attacks even more scarier. Should keep him alive potentially against the Cruel, never mind. Falishu will just smite him to death. And a turret take by Rising Lotus in the top lane really brings the gold back into their favor. The scoreline says 6-6. It's been a bloody mess so far, Humanist, for both these teams, but Rising Lotus are starting to get their heals and dig them deep, and as you can see, kills going across all around the map. Wolves are starting to collapse.
I love it. There's literally just kills happening in every lane. Crack's starting to come into his own. Only level 6. We know we want to see level 8 come out on that Celeste, but he's starting to at least do some decent damage. And when he's coupled up with that Clownwalker, it's no joke. Floorshoe getting jumped on. Keanu Nikola able to find himself a solo kill down here in the lane. Really nice. Temptation now has made his way over. Oblivion dodged out by Kigaza, but the jump in Keanu, huge burst damage. Kigaza's going to go down. Keanu picking up 2 kills in a span of about 30 seconds there.
Yeah, and this is just being the continued story, really, for Wolves in the preseason. Is good early starts coming out of them, really strong early game, and bringing it to their opponents and rotating well, but just continued mistake over continued mistake, Humanist, just puts them further and further behind. Rising Lotus, a team that has veterans on there, but also some really good new talent coming into them. They're a development team, and they're a team that's going to get stronger as the EU continues to play. It might not be until the actual VPL starts up in June, I believe, before we see Rising Lotus become a bit more of a threat here in Europe and start taking games over salty potatoes and potentially even challenging Clash and Queso. But for now, against Wolves, this is a team that they can certainly beat and close out if they just continue their aggression and putting Wolves further and further behind.
Well, it's high praise for Rising Lotus, I think, deservedly so. Kigaza taking a lot of damage down, and Bada, he's going to go down one more time to the Samuel and Blackfeather combo as Keanu just pops that down there, able to get another kill. Solicitude taking a lot of, or doing a lot of damage in this top turret, easily just jumps out using Into the Fray, and he's getting a lot of work down in this done in this top lane. It's kind of weird to say down in the top lane, but level 9 to the level 6 of this alpha here.
Right, absolutely. Solicitude is doing himself well. I remember last year he really wanted to do a lot of work to his gameplay and become a threat for the 5v5 meta, and you can see he's doing a good job. In the mid lane though,
Flourish you! Good night, sweet prince! Chrysler is going to hang out inside of that gauntlet. Whoa, a little Solar Storm love coming on through. And that's pretty fun. Like we said, the Celeste's really starting to actually do damage at this point. Now, Rising Lotus as 4 up against the 2 here of Wolves. They're going to be taking this turret down. And taking it down pretty much with ease. They can move wherever they want on the map. But actually, you're talking about Solicitude. Look up into the top lane. He might be getting a solo kill onto the Alpha. Able to reboot, but taken down anyway. Solicitude.
yeah, Solicitude indeed. This Rona is strong. And with the Sivisteel and that Serpent's Mask is not going to find himself for anytime soon. Gaza?
You got this.
Almost finds a solo kill. Oh, the minions! Nah, the flask comes out just at the last second to keep Temptation alive. Yeah, but Kikaza, he's struggling, isn't he? He's doing all right. He's farming well. He's taking turrets. You look at the farm difference between Kigaza and Temptation, and it's not a huge deficit really for Kigaza considering the pressure that has come into his lane. But now we're going to get that Ghost Wing potentially going over to Rising Lotus. It does. They're going to get some healing so they can back off. It means Wolves can't really start a fight. And now the pushing power that they have available to them, this is where Rising Lotus takes their 6,000 gold in and turns it into 10 Humanists. If they push as a 4, there's really nothing that Wolves can do. It seems like Paprika, nope, he is with us. That's good news. There's nothing really Wolves can do unless they try to potentially push on another side of the map. Fighting Rising Lotus here would pretty much be a death trap.
Yeah, it's like the Celeste has enough damage to actually just shove these turrets down, but with the Dragon's Eye Clockwork, like, anyone that starts to take damage just makes it worse for themselves. So it's almost like just don't fight unless you're gonna kill someone. The jump in, Floor Shoot taking huge damage, Oblivion puts dude to sleep. They're able to get a kill there as well. Cracks feeling good about that one. Now Wolves completely on the back foot. Wait for it will silence up 3, but no follow-up here as the Scarf just wants to hang at range, try and get some chip damage down. Rising Lotus thinking about backing up here. Cracks really hanging around, and they don't even have Solicitude with him. Solicitude up in this top lane. He's going to be on that top turret very soon, and it's like Wolves don't have enough resources. Solar Storm! Storms on through. Cracks getting a kill. That was the thing of beauty.
Yeah, now Chrysler's going to be in trouble as Nomad sets up the kill for Cracks. Doesn't come through in the end, but Solicitude has taken down that turret, pushing towards the armory, and Wolves are split. Rising Lotus can continue this split push as Solicitude somehow... What the hell is he doing?
What is he going to get to? What? The forfeit! What?
He runs! Oh, no.
Oh, he'll get taken down. Oh, man.
I mean, if he only had a breaking point at this point, then... oh, he does. Never mind. No, he just purchased it. So, it's a bit of a shame, but, like, this is the power of a Ghost Wing buff, is that 4 players can be down in that bot side Humanist because of Solicitude's absolute dominance over Paprika. He can 1v1 anyone, 1v2, 1v4 potentially coming through later on in this game. And so Rising Lotus don't need to group up. They can make that split core. If anyone Wolves dies, then it's pretty much GG to the base because those armories will fall, and that's going to be a continued problem.
Debated, potentially. They're gonna get the block as the gauntlet comes down. A nice bait out there. Now Kigaza in position. 3-man silence coming on through. Solicitude back in this position to fight Temptation. The first one to drop. Kigaza trade here. Now spin to win. The red mist is gonna tear on through.
3.
Another double kill. This is just a complete disaster for Wolves as they get torn apart here.
The debaters become the debated here, and it is going to be Rising Lotus now pushing this mid lane down, taking down that final armory turret, or potentially just going for the armory in the top side itself. Solicitude and Kiana Nicole make short work of that one. That armory turret in the mid lane will fall as well, and Wolves are broken. Coming back into this game is pretty much impossible against a 7-1-5 Rona, who's already level 12, and Solicitude knows it.
Solicitude really doesn't care. Go ahead and back on out here. Doesn't actually have into the fray here. Can they chase him down? This would be a nice kill. How desperate are you, though? You're a Krull. You're 12 and a half minutes into the game. You got an Ard right behind you, and you just can't even get on a target like that. Prime Directive's going to miss from downtown. Doesn't have infinite reboot, but they're going to fight over the Crystal Treants anyway. Cracks kiting backwards, but hello, and flourish you! The throws have begun. Click, click, boom. Going back the other way. Wolves, they're going to get onto a Black Claw here. Dowsy.
This is very interesting, Humanist. Rising Lotus have all the tools needed to steal this Black Claw away. It is actually very risky for Wolves to be going for this, because Solicitude, as a Rona with Serpent's Mask and his ultimate, can really pretty much just heal through this roster. Let's see what happens.
Oh, 2v5, he's taking a lot of damage. Black Claw is going to be taken by Wolves. You know, you fight as a team, you run as a pack. So this is what happens here.
Yeah, no, really good stuff coming out of Wolves to punish a little bit more of overaggression coming out of the side of Rising Lotus. This Black Claw really not going to do much work. Potentially, if I was Wolves, I'd be rushing to that Ghost Wing, taking it off the map, making sure that Rising Lotus doesn't have access to the huge buff that it provides, and just let that Black Claw try and battle it down mid. But they've rotated too late here. This Ghost Wing being started up will be potentially contested by Rising Lotus if they find vision of it. Looks like they may have rotated too late. But look at what Solicitude is doing. He goes, all right, you want to take my Ghost Wing? I'll take your armory down. No problem, I'm Rona. And he starts taking that one down. So whilst the Ghost Wing does go over to Wolves and they're really making the right moves as far as rotations is concerned, they're still being punished across the board, and Solicitude is still being an issue for the side of Wolves.
Objective gaming. Solicitude even will slap him on his way out there. Now, they were able to take down the Ghost Wing, but still completely on the back foot, down 12k overall net worth. Chrysaor is going to go ahead and drop the Gauntlet. Cracks is inside, blocks off the front of the Hell's Heart and the Gauntlet. Moving back, Cracks taking a lot of damage now. Solicitude, he's there, starting to spin with the Red Mist. Breaking Point building up, but a Solar Storm tears on through. That will take the Krull down. Alpha in the Infinite Reboot. Chrysaor getting chased down by Keanu Nakoa. The fight spreads out as the Wolves dropping like flies. Keanu, he'll be able to find that kill, and this should be Rising Lotus ending the game, unless it's just the biggest Dragon's Breath I've ever seen in this game.
It did get buffed, but Asteroid, he's surrounded and he will fall there. How deceiving is Solicitude's health bar, Humanist? You know, he gets knocked down to about 1/3 health, walks away, and then jumps back in and heals it all back up. Rising Lotus taking a well-deserved win over Wolves and really starting to find their feet here in the EU VPL. I wish I could say the same about Wolves, but they've got some time to work on their game. For now, it's praise to Rising Lotus.
That was the thing of beauty. Thing of beauty indeed right there. I think, you know, Dowsy, for me, is you could see that Wolves are actually incredibly talented, and they just got to put it together like Rising Lotus did. But yeah, that was the thing of beauty. Let's see